All right, welcome to the video, everyone. We are talking about Spencer Dinwiddie. We're going to talk about his deal with the Washington Wizards. Obviously, Spencer Dinwiddie was acquired in a kind of a major trade. I think it was 5 teams officially, but ultimately Spencer Dinwiddie goes to Washington, joins Bradley Beal in the backcourt there. And let's talk about it. Before we get into this video, I do want to mention, again, subscribe to the channel. We're making a lot of NBA content over here. We're doing a lot of things for Summer League, talking about more free agency moves, as there's still a couple key players that need to be officially signed by teams. And ultimately, we're just breaking everything down that we can for the NBA. And we'll be talking a lot during the off season for the NBA. So again, subscribe to the channel, comment, and like the video. So let's get into this. Spencer Dinwiddie is going to the Washington Wizards. I believe it was a trade where they traded some picks as well. It's a massive 5-team trade. I don't really want to get into it too much. Ultimately, Washington doesn't really give up too much. They do lose. I think it was Chandler Hutchinson, and he goes to San Antonio. But ultimately, Spencer Dinwiddie is with the Wizards. So one thing I want to mention here, and I got I still got the Suns freaking cap sheet pulled up here, but let's go to Washington's. So Spencer Dinwiddie comes in, signs a good deal with the Washington Wizards. The one thing that I find interesting with the Spencer Dinwiddie situation is just that, you know, he's not too great of a shooter. He's a good playmaker. I think he's a relatively good passer, okay defender. But I just don't really, you know, especially when you have some guys that struggle as jump shooters, as your forwards. Hachimura, I think, can be a good shooter, but he hasn't really shown it too much in the NBA. Denny Advia from last year's draft, also another piece that he's a player that I don't really see getting super being super effective as a shooter, at least next year. You know, Corey Kispert they drafted. I don't know how much playing time he gets. They bring back Raul Neto as well, and obviously there was the Westbrook trade that landed Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Kyle Kuzma, and Montrezl Harrell. So they have depth. I feel like Washington, if you had like another player there, could you imagine if this team had like a Paul George like player, like Chris Middleton or something like that, another forward for Beal to play, for Beal to be able to play off of? That would be amazing for this Wizards team. However, it doesn't work that way. You know, I really am interested to see how the offense works, because even like a guy like Davis Bertans, like he's like, you know, he's not a great defender, but he can hit the 3, but he's also being paid a lot. But look, I'll tell you this. I like what Washington did. I kind of was a little confused about the Westbrook trade, although I do understand them getting off of the money. Look, this is another player in Bradley Beal. So how many have we had? Bradley Beal, James Harden, Paul George, Kevin Durant. Like, we've had players that are kind of like, I would rather play somewhere else, but just not with Westbrook. Maybe not even somewhere else. Like, Harden's like, I don't want Westbrook here anymore. I don't think that's going to work out anymore. Obviously, we know what happened with Kevin Durant. Paul George signed an extension to be with Westbrook again, or for a long period of time, and then leaves. So I think Washington ultimately makes the right deal by sending Westbrook out. I think he kind of maybe wasn't an ideal fit right next to Bradley Beal. But look, if you can package something up, if you can make something of this, if you can be able to package Bertans and KCP and Kuzma and let them have maximized seasons where they look better than what they were last year, like, you could be able to get something for that. You could be able to get a good player for that. So, and then maybe you want to throw in like Thomas Bryant or you know, again, Denny Advia or Roy Hachimura. Like, you have some talent and young pieces on this team where you can be able to move pieces in the future, move players, I should say, and be able to do something there in the future. So I like what Washington did. Now, as far as their outlook this season goes, I think they'll kind of be in the same mix. You know, I think it wouldn't be surprising to me to see them in the play-in round, just because of how much better the East has gotten. You know, against Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, Boston will bounce back. Who knows? Maybe not Toronto. Toronto probably won't be as good. But, you know, you still have Charlotte. That's probably going to take another notch up. Indiana, who under Rick Carlisle, I feel like can be unlocked a little bit more. So an interesting, you know, top 10 in the East. And where Washington falls within that top 10, I feel like it's probably towards the bottom, and it's probably a team that's fighting for the playoffs and fighting for a play-in. But I like it. I feel like they're building something, and if they want to trade some of these young players that they have, like, then awesome. But if not, then, you know, I still think they are very they have some depth. Getting those 3 really good rotational players from the Lakers, absolutely, you know, crazy. Kuzma's a guy who averaged about 19 points a game before Anthony Davis had arrived in LA. KCP is that prototypical 3 and D kind of wing player, and then Montrezl Harrell, you know, 2 years ago was coming off of a 6th Man of the Year award. So you got a lot of talent. You got some young talent with Bryant Hachimura and Denny Advia, and Aaron Holiday and Corey Kispert. Like, so there's pieces there in place. But how do they get to the next level where they can be a team that can be winning in the first round? You know, we'll see. But I ultimately think, again, the Westbrook deal for them was the right move to make. And but yeah, I really like what Washington did. I just don't know if it will, you know, convert to a playoff berth this year. I think Washington is pretty much done. One other move that they made, and if you watched my 20 free agents to keep your eye on during free agency, one of the players that I mentioned was Raul Neto. Neto is a solid. I think he's the best 3rd point guard. Like, he's the best 3rd point guard on the depth chart in the NBA. I think he's really solid. I like him a lot. He plays as good a defense as, you know, he can for his limited stature and only just being like 6'1". So Neto's solid. I like them bringing him back. I think that's a good thing. And the Kispert draft pick was a little questionable to me, but ultimately I kind of like what Washington's doing, but I kind of just need to see who can they get in the future. Like, who can they navigate to be able to keep Beal happy, because again, they're in a very fortunate situation here with Beal being so open to just staying with the team. But I think that they have some maneuvers that they want to try to make. I don't see anybody that kind of pops out for me. What if I'm just trying to think of who's coming up here relatively soon as far as a free agent goes. Like, I just think it's got to be a forward that you can pair with Bradley Beal. But yeah, ultimately, again, I like what the Wizards did. That's all I got to say on the Wizards. Solid signing. I'm not super crazy about the Dinwiddie signing, but ultimately the move that they made to get Westbrook was really good. Keeping Neto, solid. And yeah, so in a couple of weeks, I will probably talk about. I'm going to talk about kind of my predictions of where the standings are what the standings should look like going into the season. My predictions of 1 through 8 and even 1 through 15 on each side of the each conference. And yeah, I'll do that. Again, making more videos. I've been watching a little bit of Summer League basketball that's been happening over in California and also in Salt Lake City, Utah. So lots of stuff going on. I'm excited to provide stuff. And we still got a couple players out there in free agency that need to be picked up. So again, subscribe to the channel if you like. This NBA coverage that we're providing, we're going to be providing a lot more. And other than that, you guys have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next video.